right, teachers, we're finishing up Psalms. This is lesson 14, which almost never happens. Lesson 14 in our series on the Psalms, and it kind of marks the end of summer. Here we are at the end of August, and I hope this lesson will help you. Psalm 42 speaks about getting peace in the presence of God, God's presence, and the lesson can be summarized this way. We can find peace in the presence of God in all seasons. There are three seasons that we're going to see here that in which you need to seek God's presence. And this is, as I read this particular psalm, you can just hear different songs that we've sung over the years show up in this psalm, which happens a lot as you study the Psalms. But anyway, the first season where we need to seek God's presence that's described here is seasons of longing. Seasons of longing. Psalm 42, verse 1. As the hart, that's a deer, panteth after the water brooks, so panteth my soul after thee, O God. My soul thirsteth for God, for the living God. When shall I come and appear before God? My tears have been my meat day and night, while they continually say to me, where is thy God? When I remember these things, I pour out my soul in me, for I have gone with the multitude. I went with them to the house of God in the voice of joy and praise with the multitude that kept holy day. Why art thou cast down, O my soul? And why art thou disquieted in me? Hope thou in God, for I shall yet praise him for the help of his countenance. Just these few verses are really helpful even in counseling. There are people that we deal with all the time. There are going to be people in your class that you deal with that really, like, the decisions they're making, sometimes the very sinful decisions they're making, are pursuing getting some kind of satisfaction for a longing in their heart. And so many times their pursuit of that satisfaction is really not going to be quenched. Their thirst is not going to be quenched by something else. That's a thirst for God and the things of God, the righteousness of God, the love of God in them. And it's like, it's like being thirsty and trying to just, pour sand in your mouth. It's just not going to work. Pour ocean water in your mouth. It's not going to quench that thirst. And David kind of says that. He says, I'm panting and I'm realizing, God, you are the one I'm really longing for. He says, my tears have been the food I've had to eat was my sorrow, right? My tears have been my food. My despair is saying to me, where's your God? And it makes you, and really that's also helpful because it's saying, like, whenever you find yourself in despair, is it because you're trying to find satisfaction in something that can't be, that can't come from what you're seeking after? It's really after God. And he says in verse 4, when I remember that, I pour out my soul in me, for I've gone with the multitude to the house of God with the voice of joy and praise. And then he's like, that's when I remember I need to go looking after you. I need to long after you. And then he asks, basically, what a great question to ask when you're in despair. Why are you cast down, O my soul? Hope in God. Why are you disquieted? I've definitely felt that. I definitely felt like just anguish, like this, like constant, like working in my mind of all the worries and what could go wrong and why do I feel this way? And man, what a horrible, that's really in a lot of ways a great description of depression and anxiety. He says, instead, hope in God, for I shall yet praise him for the help of his countenance. God's disposition to those who trust in him is to help and to hope and to love, to provide hope and to love them. So when you're realizing that there's despair, what you're realizing is there's longing there. And what David would tell us is hope in God. What the psalm would tell us is hope in God. So in seasons of longing. Number 2, in seasons of distress, he goes on and says, O God, my soul is cast down within me. Therefore will I remember thee from the land of Jordan and of the Hemorites from the hill Mizar. Deep calleth unto deep as the noise of thy waterspouts, as the waves of thy billows are gone over me. Yet the Lord will command his loving kindness in the daytime, and in the night his song shall be with me, and my prayer unto God, unto the God of my life. Here he's continuing to share his feelings of distress while remembering times of worship in Jerusalem. And he's comparing his feelings of distress to being overwhelmed by deep waters. And I think of that song, It Is Well. You know, when sorrows and sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul. I wonder if he's thinking about this verse when he wrote those words. There are people in your class that, like, they're in a season of overwhelm. They just are. There's more month than money. There's maybe those kind of financial overwhelms. There's relational overwhelms. There's people that are in a marriage and they're like, I don't know how I got into this marriage and I don't know how I'm going to get out of it. Which probably isn't even the right question, you know, but they're just in this difficult, overwhelming moment. They're really feeling those kinds of things. Obviously not everybody, hopefully, in your class is there. If they're not there right now, they've come out of that season before, or they're going into that season again. And so there's the psalmist who's saying, I said David earlier, I don't know that we know that it was David. But the idea here is that he's saying, when I'm overwhelmed, I need to remember that the Lord is the one who's going to command loving kindness, and he's going to be with me in the day and the night. He'll be with me at all times. And when I'm overwhelmed, like oceans rolling over me, he's the one that can help me. And so we should go to God. He can be our peace, and we can go into his presence really at any time. But a good time to do it is in seasons of distress. The last one, the third season that we see kind of described in this psalm, is seasons of waiting. You see in verse 9, I will say unto God my rock, why hast thou forgotten me? Why go I mourning because of the oppression of my enemy? As with a sword in my bones, mine enemies reproach me, while they say daily unto me, where is thy God? There are times where I'm looking for God's help, and it may be in a season where it doesn't seem like he's helping me. God, don't you know how to build? God, don't you know what this person is saying? God, don't you know where I'm at? I'm overwhelmed. This is difficult. I need your answer. Where are you? And even people that don't believe in God, they'll use that against me. Where's your God? But then David, or I keep saying David, the psalmist here in verse 11 says, why art thou cast down, O my soul? And why art thou disquieted within me? Same questions again. Hope thou in God. God's never let you down. He's counseling himself. God's never let me down. I'm not going to begin. I've waited before and he's come through. I've waited before and he's shown up. So don't be cast down. Don't listen to the voices that question. Hope in God. How do you do that? I will yet praise him who is the health of my countenance and my God. We are often in seasons of waiting where what we're looking for, what we need, hasn't shown up. And we may be tempted in those moments to think that God's not going to come through. But God will come through. You can trust in him. And so can the people you're teaching. So, hope this helped you. And I hope you have a great Sunday. We're on to the next series. Stay tuned.